really quick. Click
Are
that.
you
So,
gonna Are you gonna turn your camera on?
oh, my camera. It's showing in the Twitch stream. It's not showing for you because I'm showing
Oh,
it.
it is. I see it now. I see it now.
Yeah.
Please don't play with that. That is important grilling stuff. And like, kitchen is my form of psychotherapy these days. So don't mess with the kitchen stuff.
Yeah. So, welcome in everybody who's in here. We are going to be doing Analyst Depot projections today, just like we did last week. My name is Jeff Crisco, and I'm here with Evan Hoovler. Evan and I both founded and write for and do the podcast for Football Absurdity. So, welcome in. We are streaming. Evan's waving. We're streaming most days now. I think we're doing Monday, Wednesday is what I'm doing. Then Zachy says project Najee for 500 touches or we riot. I'm way ahead of you. So we are going to be streaming most days now because Evan, you're doing what, Thursday through Saturday
Yeah, Thursday through Saturday.
at 1 o'clock
Yeah.
Pacific. I'm doing Monday and Wednesday 1 o'clock Pacific. We have in the works a Twitch draft-a-thon, which will probably be in August that we're thinking of doing if we can pull that off. So check us, please follow us, and then when we get the option to, you could subscribe to us through Twitch Prime. But we need more people in the chat, so tell your friends, and we need more followers. So please follow us if you're in the chat. So Evan, what is your background?
Oh, it's Sam the Eagle's mouth from the Muppet Show.
So-
I was watching the streams that I'm on, and I have a weird resting mouth. I'm like,
Yeah, I have noticed that.
so I'm like, okay, but then I'll put Sam the Eagle on, and that way instead of saying, "Wow, that guy's got a weird mouth," they'll say, "Wow, that guy does a good Sam the Eagle impression."
Yeah, that's all you're doing is a Sam the Eagle impression.
Yeah.
So Evan, what's your experience with doing projections?
I don't think I've ever done them.
You've never done projections? Okay.
Never done projections. I am a total noob.
This is my third year doing projections, and I've gone through a couple of different projection I don't want to say services because they're usually Excel spreadsheets, but I guess a couple of different ways of doing them. And this analystdepot.com, which we're not sponsored by, I would just like to point out. This is not SpawnCon. This analystdepot.com is my favorite one that I've done so far. So it's really robust. There are some, we have to pull from some extra outside sources, but I would like to go through and project the Pittsburgh Steelers with you today. I have two teams left to project, the Steelers, and then I saved my team for last, the 49ers, because I was realizing the 49ers are going to be one of the biggest headaches out there because of all the running backs. We don't know what Ayuk and Debo are going to do together, and especially with Kittle. And then we got Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. So I'm saving them for last. I'm saving that pain for last. But I left you with the Steelers because, as Zachy mentioned in the chat, really only one thing has changed. Matt Canada is gone, but whatever. Really the big change is they're going from James Conner to Najee Harris at running back. All the wide receivers still there. Big Ben's still there. Eric Ebron's still there. Vance McDonald's replaced with Pat Freiermuth, but that's a lateral move. So I think this way that we don't have to do a lot of massaging with numbers. We can kind of figure out what we're going to be doing. So Evan, are you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So I just realized I did not have one of my things up, and it's average stats per position. As we get into the tool, you'll see why I had that up. So this is what analystdepot.com looks like. This is your landing page, and I've learned to not try to scroll in my OBS client like I did last week. I was hovering over it, and I was like, why isn't this scrolling? So this is your landing page. We do have the pay option, which allows us to use the projection wizard. I believe it's $5 a month for individual, $20 a month for a group. So go into here to season projection wizard, and this is a beautiful tool. So like I said, I've done all the teams except for the Steelers and the 49ers. So let's go ahead, click into the Pittsburgh Steelers, and like we talked about last week, this is top-down projection. So Evan, what this is you start with kind of basically how many plays do you think they're going to run? how do you think the run pass split's going to get divided up, and then we go from there, because it's a lot. Because I don't know if you've ever looked at projections, you've been like, why is this person projecting them for 72 targets? Why not 70? Why not 75? Why is it 72?
Yes.
Yeah. And you'll see why it does that here. So we'll start with the easy thing here. And so Evan, I'm going to hover over these. So over the last this is 5 years. So I'm just going to go, the run pass split has been 66% passing, which is a lot.
66% passing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot. Then 56 in 2019, 67 in 2018, 58 2017, 59 2016.
I think it's going to go back down to like 55, 56.
Okay. Well, I see. The thing is I don't. It hasn't been. It's been 56 once in 2019, and that was Big Ben's messed up elbow year. So I'm wondering, could we call it 57%?
Well, now you've kind of convinced me. I want to go higher.
You want to go higher?
Yeah, 59, 60.
All right. So 59.
Let's do 59 because that's weird, and we can be weird. People will be like, "Why did they say 59 and not 60?"
We could do 59.5. So, okay, so we're going to go 59% rushing. I have my notes here. I'm always taking notes. 59% passing, 41% rushing. So now we go to the play split. So 995. I kind of want to skip 2019 because of the Big Ben thing. So we've got 995, 1033, 1024, 1005. So sounds like they want to run about 1,000 plays in a 16-game season.
Sure, but we can't say 1,000 because it looks like we phoned it in.
Okay, so we'll go 1,000. So, but here's the fun part. So we'll say 1,000 over 16-game season. So that's 590 pass attempts, 410 rush attempts. But then this guy right here, scale it from 16 to 17. Now we're at 626 and 435. So now it doesn't look like we did that. And I want to double check here because Ben Roethlisberger and his pass attempts, just to double check and make sure, because he seems like he's been up in the 600s recently. So 675, 608. So we might actually be pretty good here with the 626 with the extra game. So don't feel too bad about that. 435 rush. So you feel good about this part, Evan?
Sure.
Okay. Now comes the fun part. The fun part is who matters.
Wasn't the fun part?
No. Nope. This is all the projections. Thank you for watching. So if you watched last week, I have to delete all the quarterbacks when I go into the teams because I clicked the wrong button and I projected every quarterback in the league accidentally. So now when I go into the teams, it's like, don't forget you projected Roland Rivers for a 0% rushing share. I'm like, thank you. Thank you for that. So, okay.
Is that a real guy? Or just making
apparently, Roland on the Rivers.
Oh my God.
It's right there.
That's not a real guy.
Roland Rivers III.
Wow.
He played for Slippery Rock University. All right. Shoot. Okay. So for this team, for the quarterback, unless it's a team where I know that the quarterbacks are going to be splitting, I try to put it all on one guy. So, like, for example, I know Andy Dalton and Justin Fields will be splitting time, so that's not all on one guy. But for here, I'm cool with just Big Ben. So, running backs, Evan. So we got the man himself, Najee Harris. And then, do you know about Our Lads?
No.
Okay, so Our Lads is another resource. It's a roster website. So it's very cool. They do roster projections. If you know baseball, it's a lot like Roster Resource. And I like to see.
Is it made by British people? Why do they call it Our Lads?
I think it is actually. My guess is it started with soccer. That's my best guess.
That's a very soccer British sounding term.
Yeah, that's just a complete guess though. So all right, so we start with Najee Harris, and then we got Snell, Balaj, and McFarland. I'm okay projecting just those guys. I think Jalen Samuels is on his way out. He didn't do much before. So, actually, let's do this. I want to project a guy who will catch some passes. So, I think Jalen Samuels will. And then This is hard because Kalen Ballage, Benny Snell, and Anthony McFarland, none of them are very good. Gosh. Which guy do you think is the best? Like Anthony McFarland because he hasn't sucked yet?
Yeah, for that reason.
Okay, so
with you.
we'll do Tony McFarland and we'll just project those guys. I like to leave like 4 to 6% rushing share left over for the.
Also, Anthony McFarland is 5'8". Wait, that doesn't mean anything. Never mind. My brain short circuited.
Let's look
My
at.
kids got out of school for summer, which
Oh,
I'm pretty sure violates the Geneva Conventions, but I'm looking into it.
to have kids
So
out
I'm
for
a little distracted.
to have kids out for the summer.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at in 2019 when James Conner wasn't hurt. I love to double check running back rush distributions.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Snell had more usage last year. Snell's also bad, and McFarland was a rookie, so it might be. I mean, we're not talking about a whole lot of touches here. So it looks like this year, yeah, Benny Snell had 108 at 3.9 yards per carry in 2019. So we'll project Benny Snell, and we'll do Tony McFarland.
Why do they have so many? 108 seems like a lot for a team with a main bell cow.
Oh, because this is a year that James Conner got hurt. It's so hard to find a year that James Conner didn't get hurt.
Oh, yeah.
2018, James Conner, 215, Jalen Samuels, 56, Stephen Ridley, 29. So really the down roster guys to Snell having more usage last year, it doesn't matter with the Steelers. It just doesn't. They don't want to use multiple backs if they can help it. So I'm going to go ahead and instead of Tony McFarland, I have a feeling Kalen Ballage might have clicked a little bit last year. He was slightly better than he had been in his career. So I'm going to do Ballage instead of McFarland. Yeah, Ken Shamrock. The Steelers are 5th in giving one running back 20-plus touches in a game since Mike Tomlin entered the league. So they love to run one guy into the ground if they can do it. So these other guys, I don't particularly care what they do. Like we could project every single player, but then we're like, all right, is Anthony McFarland going to get 31 or 34 carries? So is he going to get 105 or 122 yards? It doesn't matter. So that's why I leave 5% left over just for the flotsam and jetsam. So, Evan, who do you think the wide receiver one in Pittsburgh is going to be next year? Let's start there.
God. Okay.
This is the hard part. There's
3 different people it could be.
Deontay gets the most targets, but he's the least efficient with them. Juju's the guy that's been there. Big Ben petitioned for Juju to come back, but I don't think it's Juju. It could be Chase Claypool, but that's a lot of projection. It's like they all have cases for them and cases against them.
Juju wasn't bad last year.
Well,
Great.
he wasn't great. The problem with Juju was last year was that Big Ben would forget that he had him for most of the drives, and then he would just like one drive, like dink and dunk, like 5 passes down to him.
He averaged 8.6 yards per catch, which he's not a slot guy. That's weird.
Are you talking about Juju or Deontay?
Juju.
I'm not sure where they lined him up last year.
He was 9th in the league in receptions and 38th in yards.
9th in receptions and 30. Yeah, that sounds like the Juju experience last year. Juju, yeah, he was just like Big Ben was
Zachy
like.
corrected me. Juju was almost all slot. Thank you again. Brain a little scrambled today.
Yeah, I'm double checking the slot numbers. I always like to know exactly, so it makes my projections take longer. 82% slot. So yeah, almost all. He was the number one. He was the slot guy in the league. The number one slot guy in the league.
Wow.
I don't know if this. I think this number one is most raw slot snaps, but 82% rate's not bad. So, it's really good. So, I think personally, the guy who's going to get the most targets again this year is going to be Deontay. Ben Roethlisberger doesn't seem to care about drops. Drops aren't real. And then where'd you get those numbers, Ken Shamrock? 88% of his total routes this season from the slot, 513 from the slot in 2020 led the NFL. I'm not questioning him. I would like to know where that
Deontay had
information is.
144 targets.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I'm not questioning you, Ken Shamrock. I just want to know where that information is because I have such a hard time finding free formation information. I usually have to find an article that talks about it and then reverse engineer it. Oh, see? Exactly like you did. I have to find an article and then use the information from there. So the 513 routes in the slot led the NFL. So yeah, he was the slot guy in the NFL last year. I was really hoping for a database because that's being resourceful is finding it in an article. And I have somebody calling me. I do believe this is my body shop with my car being done, or my mechanic shop. But
Ooh, exciting!
ooh, buddy, yeah, it was hitching on hills, and it turns out we just need spark plugs. But
That's a relief.
yeah, but the spark plugs in my car are like in a weird spot, and so it was like 4 hours worth of labor. So it was kind of annoying. So Deontay's Juju, Claypool, and then I don't care about Rico Bussey or Busey or whatever. James Washington, his time seems to have passed. Like he's a deep sleeper guy. I'll throw James Washington in there, but then like Ray McLeod, like these guys don't particularly matter. So
Deontay Johnson led the league in dropped passes.
correct. There's a reason his name is Deontay Dropson, but Ben doesn't care. He led the league in drops, but not drop rate. One of the reasons he had so many drops was because he got a ton of targets. So if you go to, I'll hype Player Profiler here because they have good ranking statistics for free. This is one thing I like to talk about with talking pure raw drops. Where's his drop numbers? So yeah, he had 11. That's really bad. But he had 150 targets last year? 144. So you think about 144 targets, 11 drops. His drop rate isn't good, but it's not as bad as you think. He only dropped, 7.6% of the balls. And yes, we'll have this set up to archive so we can watch later. It goes up automatically on the Twitch stream, twitch.tv/footballabsurdity. So, yes, it will be set up to watch later. So no worries there.
What's Zachy asking there? Is he saying do drops vary from year to year?
Yeah, drops are that. This is Zachy's actually something that I've come around on this year, which is drops aren't sticky. Which is they're not consistent from year to year, and we can actually take a diversion and talk about that really quick if we want. We can go to data analysis. We can get drops. Player Profiler never thinks I'm logged in. It always makes me log back in. Oh no, everybody knows my username. All right, so fantasy tools, data analysis. So let's check out drops. So let's look at drops really quick while we're talking about. Ken Shamrock knows. How'd you know it was a bunch of asterisks? You're good. Are you a hacker? I think Ken Shamrock's a hacker. So let's look at drops year to year, and then we'll also look at drop rate, and then wrong button, target. Goodness gracious, my fingers I'm fat fingering today. So where is just raw targets? Target share, target. There it is. So let's look at the last 3 years. Oh, is this going to be ugly? Yeah, shoot. This is ugly.
How many touches do you think Najee Harris is going to get, Calvin?
What? How good is
Just say something funny.
0?
Okay.
Oh, good. Player Profiler crashed. Okay. Wait, did Calvin just project Najee Harris tearing his ACL into the preseason?
Yeah.
Wow. Man,
I said 0.
Yeah, so he's not going to play. The Player Profiler data was a little sticky or a little messy, so But I don't think drops are that sticky, Zachy. I think they're fairly random from year to year. So you're correct there, which is why I'm more up on Deontay Johnson than I was last year. I do think it's something that players can work on in the offseason. So, okay. So let's go.
I'm listening. Keep going. I'm listening. I just have to set my kids up with some video games.
Okay. So, Eric Ebron, I think Pat Fryermuth is going to get involved. So we'll go ahead and add a Pat Fryermuth. Unfortunately, Evan's son broke the news that Najee Harris is not going to get any carries this year. So kind of rough go of it. I guess he's probably going to tear his ACL in camp or something. So, we can click the projection AI. I don't particularly care for the projection AI, if we're being honest. I think it needs some tweaks. It's pretty good for if a guy's been in the league for like 5 years and you're trying to get like a cat or like a yards per reception and you don't want to look up what he's done. It'll get you in the ballpark, but I usually still end up looking at what he's done. So you can see, nice. Let's get some nices going. 69%. So this is what they projected the rushing share for. This is a mess, and it's because we have guys like Najee Harris who haven't played it down in the NFL. So if we do this, much better, much better. Give him about 2/3 of the carries. Let's start with 60%. Okay, let's start with 60%. See where we go from there. One thing that you have to account for when you're projecting players for rush attempts is just seeing if the team has it in their DNA to get a lot of rush attempts to wide receivers. 3 to Deontay, 4 to Ray McLeod, 0 to, so not really. So we don't have to really worry about that. That'll get rolled up in those 5%. So Evan, how many rush attempts for Najee this year?
For Najee?
Yeah.
250.
250? All right.
Sure.
So 250.
251.
Well, it's at 261 right now. Do you want to leave it at that?
Sure.
Okay, so that gives him 60% of the rushing share, which honestly isn't that crazy. Ideally they do give one guy all the touches. It was true. I mean, it's easy when it's Lev Bell, but then it was true of like D'Angelo Williams, James Conner, the Flotsam and Jetsam they had filling in for James Conner at various times. So I have no problem with giving one guy 60% of the carries. So, Big Ben rush attempts. I mean, this man, he does not run anymore. Rushing.
Yeah,
25 rush attempts. And if I had to wager a guess, I would say probably 8 of those were kneels. I don't know why I'm guessing. I have QB kneel down information on my computer.
He got a solid 11 yards on those 25 attempts total.
Whoo, buddy. So I don't know why I'm guessing. I do have quarterback kneel down statistics because I'm a psychopath. Big Ben Roethlisberger had... Where's Big Ben? He had 15 of those carries were kneel downs. And sacks don't count as rush attempts.
His rushing average to 2.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So we'll give him 10 rushes. Oh, I almost give him a 10% rushing share. We'll give him 10 rushes. 2.3% rush share. Because I try to not project kneel downs. That was the whole big part of the project. And so we got 12.4% to work with. Ken Shamrock wants us to give 10 to Chase Claypool. So why not? We'll give 10 to Chase Claypool. So Benny Snell's getting 56. Kalen Ballage is getting 12.4. Jalen Samuels is getting none. How do you feel about this, Evan?
10 was the amount that Chase Claypool got last year, so I feel great about that one.
Okay. Oh, he got 10 last year? Did I just look right past that? I must have just looked right past that. Okay. So I thought that was Ken Shamrock requesting 10. I just must have looked right past it. So
for a whopping 16
yards. 16 yards? All right. Ooh,
yeah.
buddy.
They're really great at non-rushing running back carries is what I'm taking away from all this.
Yeah. So, Evan, how do you feel about this breakdown here? With Najee getting 60% of the rushes, 261 yards, or 261 attempts, Jalen Samuels getting about 20, and then Benny Snell and Kalen Ballage splitting the rest. Does that seem pretty good? Uh-oh. Evan, your mic's off.
I'm just looking at your screen with your numbers and looking at my screen where I have some numbers and comparing. Yeah, that works. That works.
That works for you? Okay, perfect. So now let's go on to the next step. Oh, Sorry if you guys see me futzing with my ring today. I had to open a new container of protein powder, and if you've ever opened a new container of protein powder, you have to dig for the scoop. So I saw the circle. I saw the ring in the bottom of the thing, so I had to dig all the way down. So, all right, yards per carry, which is not a great statistic, but it's the best that we have. So let's see what the projection has to say.
For everyone.
Well,
4.00.
I'm curious how the computer got this rushing yards per carry for Ben Roethlisberger.
He's gonna do those shotgun kneel downs.
He's gonna do a Dan Orlovsky. He's gonna run backwards out of the end zone.
Some weird triple reverse scenario.
Okay, so I don't think that this is correct. I love this program. There's still a few bugs, but I love. Okay, so 0.2. You feel good about? Let's see, what's 0.2? It's at 8 inches per carry. It feels downright rookie year Ronald Jonesian. All right, so this is what they have for them, but I don't like this. I don't like this. What I've done, and I'll share the numbers with you guys, but it's too onerous to put it into a spreadsheet, is I've got the last 3 years averaged out for players for what they did. So Big Ben, I'm just gonna clean this up. Just give him 2 yards per carry because we know it doesn't matter. So Evan, do you think Najee Harris will be better, worse, or just about average for a running back? So what that is, for the average running back carry over the last 3 years went for 4.33 yards. Do you think he's going to be better, less, or the same? Or better, more, or the same?
How's Pittsburgh's line? My mind's making a blank. How's Pittsburgh's line?
It was not good last year. We can look and see what they invested in it on Our Lads. They didn't invest much in it. It looks like college free agent, 4th round pick, 3rd round pick. So they invested some, but not a ton. And it was not great last year. Pro football. And Mike's in the chat. What's up, Mike? Yeah, Mike says the O-line is crap, and I tend to agree with him.
The O-line's crap, but the defense does have 3 wide receivers to account for.
It doesn't make the offensive line any better. But it does lighten the box. James Conner in his last year, I believe he got
4.3.
He faced 7 guys in the box on average.
That explains a lot because I was looking at his yards per attempt, and it's a respectable 4.3, and I'm like, how?
Yeah, the Steelers had the 2nd worst run blocking unit in Pro Football Focus last year.
Let's call him average then.
4.3. You think the talent will offset the awfulness?
Yeah, and he'll break a couple with such a loose box.
Whoa, family show, buddy. All right, Jalen Samuels over the last 3 years averages. Where's his yards per carry? I lost it. Yards per attempt, 3.5. That feels right. That feels downright Jalen Samuelsian. So, 3.5. Snail and Balaj, you feel okay with league average? Or below league average?
Balaj.
So Snell was 3.6 last year, or in the last 3 years, and Balaj is 3.1. Good God.
Yeah.
But I think
I remember him not being able to run just for his whole career.
Well, no, he can run, but he can run in a straight line until somebody bumps into him and then he falls over. Let's see. Kalen Balaj, I feel like he did better last year. Wow, that was all in my head. That was 100% in my head that Kalen Balaj got better last year. This dude stinks. Whew.
Currently rostered in 2% of Yahoo Fantasy Leagues.
Wow. All right, so Kalen Balaj will do 3 point. We'll say he gets a little bit better. 3.4. Benny Snell will say 3.7. These guys probably won't matter, if we're being honest. So, do you feel good about those numbers?
Yeah, 3 point anything that's less than 8, I feel okay with.
Okay. And so, Claypool, I just want to double check what Claypool did on his rush attempts last year. So I could throw.
He had 10 rush attempts for a whopping 16 yards.
Oh, wow. He's so good. So let's give him 2 yards per carry. Oh, I gave him to Juju. That's why it didn't work. So 2 yards per carry. So you see here, Evan. So we've put in so far. We have we started with number of plays and the run pass split, and then we went. That gave us the number of rush attempts, and then we split those up, and then we did yards per carry. So now we have some projected numbers to work with. So
Can we give Dwayne Haskins one carry? That way, when they do some weird gadget play, we're like, we told you.
no,
Called it.
no, Dwayne Haskins. He's so bad, Evan.
He had in his 7 games last year, he had 2 fewer fumbles than all of Pittsburgh had combined in 16 games.
Good God. You know who had a lot of fumbles? Chris Herndon. He's touched the ball like 77 times in his career, and he's fumbled 4 times. I'm like, good God, man. Those are some butterfingers. So now we have yards per carry. So most of these guys aren't going to matter. This is the guy we care about. Najee, 1,122 yards. Well, Evan's not paying attention. He's doing kid stuff. I'm up it to 4.4. Give him an extra tenth of a
Setting
yard.
the timer so the kids don't fight about whose turn it is.
Give him an extra tenth of a yard per carry while you weren't looking. So here's where it gets weird. So this is touchdown rate. So basically the rate at which, how many of their rushes end in touchdowns. So I don't think Ben Roethlisberger is rushing for -2 touchdowns.
It's called a safety. People learn the terminology.
Is this equivalent to 6 safeties?
I just stumbled upon the stat. Pittsburgh only had 10 rushing touchdowns last year.
Yeah, dude. I mean, James Conner was always hurt. Everybody else on that team sucked at rushing the football.
No, I'm wrong. We don't have James Conner's numbers here. Okay, that's where the issue is.
Oh, we don't.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm just looking at the current roster. They're good because that, even then it doesn't make any sense. Okay.
Yeah. So last year, I mean, it doesn't. It probably doesn't get much better. So Big Ben has not rushed for a touchdown in 2 years. He's only rushed for touchdowns in 1 of the last 4 years. So I'm comfortable giving him 0 touchdowns on the ground instead of -2. I feel like the chat's with us here to not give him -2 touchdowns. Maybe that's the the Big Ben tax being a jerk. They're really down on him, but we'll see. So league average for a running back scoring touchdowns is on. Hold on, I'm stalling because I'm switching over to my my personal spreadsheet here. 3.3% of rushes. So that's all rushes by all running backs. So that includes goal line specialists. That includes guys like Devin Singletary, who never touched the ball in the red zone. I think Najee Harris is going to have an altogether role. Like, I think he's going to score a decent amount of touchdowns. I see him being similar to like a Josh Jacobs or Marlon Mack in terms of goal line usage, where they're going to give him a lot of attempts at the goal line. So, Evan, how do you feel about giving him a 3.7% touchdown rate?
What was the league average? 3.3?
3.3, and I think he's going to be better than that.
I want a slight bump, too, because Pittsburgh scores in the top third of the league.
Okay, yeah, they're going to score a lot. And if they have their druthers, they're going to use a running back to do it, even though they have 3 great wide receivers. So they're going to pound the rock at the goal line, and that's 10 touchdowns. So right now we're sitting about 1,100 yards and 12 touchdowns, and this is before we do receiving. So let's see. I mean, Najee Harris is better than James Conner, but this is the best.
And this is, of course, projected for 17 games, right?
Yes, this is 17 games.
I always have to mentally adjust that because right there I'm like, that sounds like 3% too high. And then I'm like, oh, no, wait, no.
I had to go back and redo my projections because for too many guys, I was like, oh, there's an extra game, so he'll score an extra touchdown. And they had all these guys with like 12 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns who didn't deserve it. And I was like, oh, just because there's an extra game doesn't guarantee they'll score a touchdown. So James Conner has scored 22 touchdowns in his last 532 rush attempts. So that's about 4%. So maybe we haven't gone high enough on Najee. But it's hard to project more than 10 rushing touchdowns. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
That's fair? Okay.
Yeah.
And then for these guys, I don't care. Let's see what the computer says. 2, and I'll give Jalen Samuels 1 rushing. No, he doesn't rush, though. So, a couple. I feel better with 1-1 because of what you said about 10 rushing touchdowns, other than James Conner. All right. Does everybody approve of this 10 touchdowns for Najee Harris? I'm not giving him 99% snap share. I'm sorry, or carries, but I hope everybody's okay with this. So 10 touchdowns, really good. And I'm not giving Chase Claypool a rushing touchdown, even though he'll actually. You know what? I will give him a rushing touchdown.
Yeah, 5-6 of the rushing touchdowns feels weird, but I guess they're going to use them.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at let's look at the Steelers in 2018 when they last had a back that they could trust for most of the touches. I mean, James Conner had 12 of 16 rushing touchdowns that year. So, I mean, that's 10 of 13 is relatively close. Yes, Najee deserves 110% of the carries. That's why the Analyst Depot is trying to give Big Ben -2 rushing touchdowns. All right, so I think we're good with this 10-1-1-1, or do you want to make it a clean 11-1-1-1?
God, I have to keep adjusting. I'm like 11, but I'm like, oh wait, there's an extra game.
The
11.
The last time they had one guy get the bell cow roll, he had 12 touchdowns. So don't forget that.
All right, 11.
Yeah, so and James Conner isn't as good as Najee Harris. So, all right. So, rushing is done. Rushing is done. But if I back out of here, it'll get a little wonky. So let's move on to target share. So this is fun because the AI, if you use the AI, will project. Oh, it didn't do it this time. For certain teams, it'll project more passes than the team has by a decent margin. So, let's start with Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, and then see where we go from there in terms.
Why does total target say 158?
That's leftover. That's how many I haven't allocated to anybody. That number at the bottom. So that's not total. That's total remaining. You can see in the far left category.
Okay.
Yeah, it's total remaining. So let's see. Over the last few years, I don't have market share over the last few years because I had to start working. I didn't do so many columns, so I don't have market share, unfortunately. But what I do have is targets per game. So let's look at Deontay over the last 3 years. Averages 7.6 per game, but that went up last year. Juju averages 8.2, but that went down last year. And Claypool, this will just be his rookie year number, averages 6.8. So if we give Juju, or if we start with Claypool and we go 6.8 times 17. So if he gets exactly the same touchdowns per game or targets per game as he did last year, times 6.8, that's 116 targets for Chase Claypool. So that gives him about an 18% target share. How do you feel about that? You're muted.
Well, that's the exact same amount, almost the exact same amount he had last year, plus one more game's worth of targets. So, sure.
Okay, yeah, because what I did was I took his targets per game last year and then multiplied it by one more game. So that's why it came out like that.
My brain is scrambled, man.
Yeah. So
I'm playing the noob in this scenario because I am not fit to lead.
I'm teaching you. I'm showing you the ropes. So Deontay Johnson had a huge step forward in targets last year. You can see he had 92 his rookie year, 144 last year. So if he goes 144 divided by 16 times 17, we're starting with about 150 targets. And once we get this sorted out, I want to do an adjustment because I think Juju ends up with more targets per game than he did last year because they did load manage him towards the end of the year. They didn't want him to burn out his rookie year, so he ended up getting fewer targets down the stretch. So, I mean, we could start with 153 for Deontay, so that's 24%. You can see we still have 11.3% to work with. We still have 71 targets to distribute, but Najee Harris probably should have more than 13 targets. And same with Jalen
In
Samuels.
Najee Harris's own words, I've been catching the ball since I was in the fetus position.
The fetus position. All right, so if we give him 12, that's not going to work. So let's look at Steelers. Let's look at Steelers running backs and their targets throughout the year so we can figure this out. Because one thing I like to look at when I start with projections is team tendencies. Oops, I don't care about Jack Ham, at least not right now. I try to look at team tendencies because that's a good place to start. It's kind of built into the team's DNA, especially when there's been consistency in coaching and stuff. So James Conner got 43 targets in 13 games last year. His targets per game since he took over. I don't want to look at Lev Bell for this, Evan, because Lev Bell was like, it's hard to project somebody into a Lev Bell workload.
Yeah.
All right. So James Conner averaged 68 targets per 16 games. So that's 68 divided by 16 comes out to 4.25 targets per game. So 75 targets is 4.25 times 17 would be 72 targets, as I give him 189 accidentally because I hit the wrong button. So just projecting what James Conner did, that's 12% of the target share, more or less. So we can start there. Do you think he'll get more or fewer targets than James Conner? He has been.
This is hard for me because he caught 3 touchdowns in his last game, and so I'm like, oh, this guy's the best. But I'm like, no, he's actually okay.
So it's Cam Akers syndrome, where the last time you saw him, he was going crazy.
Yeah.
So that's what it's going to be forever.
Yeah. I've been researching this, and he seems pretty middle of the road in terms of pass catching ability.
So you don't think they'll go out of the way to target him?
I like average.
Average? Okay, so we'll do 12.1. So I cleaned up some targets because I don't think Benny Snell and Kalen Ballage are getting a ton of targets because they're not good. I don't think James Washington's getting 46 targets. Let me double check that to see if that's insanely out of line. That doesn't sound right to me. Okay, so he got 56 last year, 80 in 2018. Good God, I forgot he had 80 targets. No wonder he was getting hyped as a sleeper. But he hasn't done much. So I feel fine taking the targets from there. How are you feeling about the targets, Evan?
James Washington? There's just too many mouths to feed, so I like going down.
Yeah, this is a problem that you run into with these very robust passing option teams, is you get these issues where you don't know where they're going with the football. So another thing to tell everybody about is the Fantasy Pros target distribution, I guess, landing page would be the way to put it. They have raw targets in the last year to wide receivers, but also target rate. So I like to see, about 70% of the targets go to wide receivers, about 12 to running backs, and about 17% to tight ends. And I believe that's not fairly consistent. And now that I think about it, because they added Chase Claypool. So yeah, you can see the Steelers are at 60%. So let's do this, Evan. How do you feel about making sure that 70% of the targets more or less go to the wide receivers, 18% go to the tight ends, and 12% go to the running backs?
The logic makes sense.
The logic makes sense. So that means that Jalen Samuels has been shoved out of a role. You know, because but he's the pass catching guy, so he's got to get more than that. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go give Najee 10. 63 is still one of the most targeted running backs in the league. 63 total targets. That's still more or less top 10. And that gives us 14 to the running backs, which is a little high, but we can live with it. Right now we're sitting at, let's see, 40, 41. We're sitting at about 68-ish to the wide receivers. So who do you think deserves more targets here? We got Deontay with 152. We got Juju with 103. And we got Claypool with 115. First of all, does that order of target distribution make sense with Juju as the third target?
Yeah. I think Juju's too low, but I'm not saying he should have more than Claypool.
Okay. Well, I mean, we have a little bit of space to work with. What do you think Juju should be?
We've knocked him off about 20. We've knocked him off about 20% of targets from last year, not even factoring in the extra game.
Oh, goodness. We did, didn't we? Oh, boy. Well, they didn't really add anybody but Najee. Let's do this. Deontay. Let's look at their actual target distribution last year. Because I really feel like for more than most teams, sorting out these three guys really is important because they're making up probably 2/3 of the passing game. So let's look at the percentage last year. Personally, I think whatever Claypool has, we should up by a little bit because of them doing the load management. And whether that comes out of Deontay or Juju is yet to be seen. So, target share, 23 for Deontay last year, and we have Deontay at 24. So let's knock him down to 23. That gives us some extra space to work with. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Juju, I did not realize his best comp was DeAndre Hopkins. That's pretty wild. Juju had a 19.6% target share last year. We have him at 16.5. I don't think he's sticking at 19, but I think he might be a little too low. So we have some room to play with. So let's call him 17.5. He's got 109 targets. This isn't an exact science, it's just a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing, basically. Evan's trying to mute me. He's tired of my nonsense.
I'm trying to actually turn you up.
Oh, you're trying to turn me up.
Yeah, my kids are playing.
Yeah, Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock saying Juju was Big Ben's safety blanket in the fourth quarter in tight games. No, he was just randomly Ben's safety blanket. It's not necessarily fourth quarter in tight games. Because, I watched every single game last year. I didn't care about a single Steeler but Juju. And it would be like, come on, come on, come on. And sometimes it'd be like the third quarter for whatever reason. But it would always be the second half. But it would only be one drive, usually. So I'm going to have to slightly disagree there, even though I do agree in spirit as to that there is a situation where Big Ben just turns it on and loves to throw it to Juju for one drive. Let's give him 18. I'm realizing we're making this too difficult on ourselves. So if we give Claypool 20, give him the big breakout leap in production or in targets. We give Deontay 23, Juju 18. We're sitting at 60% between those guys, between James Washington and the other guys. That's your other 10% at wide receiver. So I feel good about this target share, Evan.
Well, you couldn't be more wrong, Jeff.
Okay. Do you think Juju deserves
113? I think it's really spot on. I just feel like we need a little spark.
We need some spark. Well, this isn't an arguing episode. This is a teaching episode. So
no, it's not.
No, it's not. So Claypool, they had him sitting a lot in the second half. His snap share was only 62%. A lot of that he went down. And they asked Mike Tomlin about it. He basically said it was a load management ththing. Because that was when they were 10-0, 11-0. They were like, look, kid's a rookie. He's going to play a lot more games. Our goal is to be playing in January. So we want to make sure he doesn't hit that wall. So they were taking him off the field more. So this 25% target rate, I don't think it's going to stay at that, but I think 20% is a pretty good thing. And if you're trying to keep track at home, 20%, 25% target rate, you see 16% target share. You can see target rate is targets per route run. So it's more or less when he's on the field because he's running a route. 2/3 of the time. Oh no, this is per team pass play. So he's running 27 routes per game. So more or less when he's on the field, he's doing a lot of route running. So I feel okay about all this. So let's go ahead. We've got 7.6% to play with here. I think that Eric Ebron probably deserves more targets. That's the first time I think I've ever said that. And Pat Freiermuth also deserves more targets. So let's up these guys and then call it a day. Because ultimately, if we're being completely honest here, Pat Freiermuth's projection, Kalen Ballage, Benny Snell, Jalen Samuels, those don't matter except in rolling them into Ben Roethlisberger. Like what they do doesn't matter. So let's do this. Everybody's favorite catch rate. Evan, running backs catch balls at a 676
Stadium.
at a football stadium. I was trying to riff on it and I blew it. So there's 76% of their balls or catches a rookie year. So more or less the same for Najee.
The same.
The same? Okay.
He's average. Ben dumps it off average.
Okay, so that's 48 receptions. So one thing I have to say about these average numbers that I came up with, and I'm trying to figure out a better way to express them, because if you think about like baseball, okay, you have like an average for the league. Everybody takes their turn. Some players are in more prolific offenses, so they get a few more at bats. But everybody, if you play every day, ends up between 600 and 700 plate appearances usually. So if you have an average at bat, that kind of gets evened out because everybody has to take their turn. In the NFL, I say the average carry goes for 4.33 yards. But if you're better and your yards per carry is higher, you get more rushes. So that skews it. So it's something I'm trying to figure out a better way to do average, because arithmetic mean, which is what this is, which is adding everything up and then dividing by the number of rushes, it kind of skews it towards your Derek's Henry and your, Zeke's Elliott, guys who get a big yards per carry and lots of carries, Dalvin's Cook, that sort of thing. So still trying to figure that out, but 76% catch rate does account for guys getting more good guys getting more targets. And I feel fine with giving Jalen Samuels 75, Benny Snell 70. Who cares? Kalen Ballage 70. Snell and Ballage are both below average at a lot of stuff. Right?
Deontay Johnson 0. I'm glad they had the decimal in there, because now I can say 0.4.
Yeah. What's this perfect response that you're getting praised for in the chat?
I assume it's every response I make.
Okay, perfect. So what did you say, 70.4?
I said 0.4, Jeff.
0.4. Oh, wow, it's not doing the thing where it automatically changes the percentage. There we go. They must be doing
I thought we were talking about Deontay Johnson when I said 0.4.
0.4 catch rate?
Deontay Johnson.
Good God, man. Even with all those drops, he was still at 61 last year. So if you think so, I don't think drops are sticky from year to year. I think that his drops will go down. Oh, in stadiums in response to running back catching footballs. And then I tried to riff on that one, and then I fell on my face. So I think Deontay Johnson will have a higher catch rate this year, because I agree with what Zachy said in the chat that drops aren't sticky. They're not indicative from year to year. Even though there's been one Deontay Johnson training camp highlight, and you'll never guess what it was. It was the ball going through his hands on what looked like an out route. So let's give Deontay Johnson 63% catch rate. So that accounts for some of those drops becoming catches instead, because he had 9 drops. So you give him 4 or 5 catches back, catch rate goes up a couple percent. So Juju Smith-Schuster, so his catch rate was 76% last year, 75.8. So I feel more confident with that staying the same than it going back to his career rate, because of how Ken Shamrock pointed out in the chat. He became more of a safety blanket for Ben. So easier catches, higher catch rate. If we went last 3 years for Juju, Evan, what do you think? How much difference do you think that is in catch rate if we go last 3 years?
5%.
It is 68.7% over the last 3 years. So that's about, what, 7%?
Nailed it.
So you can see how a change in role can really change like what you think about like a catch rate and stuff. So I can't slouch in this chair. I've noticed I start to slouch when we podcast, and it's fine because it's a podcast. But when we're recording, I'm always repositioning myself in the chair. So Chase Claypool. I closed his player profiler page, but I can tell you what his catch rate was last year. Chase Claypool, 57%. Wow, that's low. So when I see something that low with a guy that I know is good, like Chase Claypool, you want to check his average depth of target, Evan.
How come?
Because if you're getting the ball further down the field, it's the opposite of the Juju thing, where if he's getting harder targets. And it looks like this doesn't have his. Oh yeah, it's completed air yards. Unrealized air yards. Ugh. Okay. This is really breaking it up in a way that I'm not comfortable with. Player profiler is. So let's go back to everybody's favorite free fantasy football site, or free football site, Pro Football Reference. And over the last few years, they have added a nifty little thing, advanced rushing and receiving, or receiving and rushing. So we see his ADOT was 13.2, which is deeper than average. If we look at let's look at Juju's ADOT last year, just to compare and contrast. Juju's ADOT was 5.5 last year. So on your average, if it's 1st and 10, he's barely getting halfway to the sticks before he's getting his target. But you can see Juju was never exceptionally deep. He just had a lot of yards after the catch per reception. 5.5, 5.8. That's pretty good. So this, 13 yards downfield for Claypool? That's why his catch rate was so low. So let's do this. Let's assume he becomes a better player. So he was at... man, it is hard to do all this while talking and doing all that stuff. He was at 57% last year. So you figure he goes up 5%. He catches one more ball every 20 passes. And if you're going to do this, what I like to do is I assume that he's catching more balls because he's running a greater variety of routes. So one thing I mentally have to do is tick his yards per reception down ever so slightly. If that makes sense. Because if we're saying, well, he's not going to get 56% of his catches because he's going to be running different routes. He's not just going to be running go routes and posts and other deep shots. So he's going to catch more balls. You also have to understand his yards per reception will also go down just a little bit. James Washington, we're down to the part where I just fill it in because we're taking a good amount of time on this. And also, I do not particularly care about James Washington. 52% on his career. That dude, that's a bust right there. 52%. Doesn't matter how many targets you get. If you're as far into your career as James Washington is and you're only catching 52% of targets. So, Eric Ebron, Evan, 60% of his balls were caught. This is 8% lower than the league average at tight end.
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right for Eric Ebron? Okay. And then Pat Freiermuth, I'm just going to project league average for him, which is it's 67 flat. It's 67.97. So actually it's 68 flat. 68% catch rate. All right, Evan. We have 2 more steps, and then we're done. How does that feel?
Good.
All right, so let's see what the robots have to say. I love starting with the robots. All right, so the robots are being super conservative with our big target guys here. Being super liberal with
just ridiculous.
46 yards per yards per reception for Kalen Ballage. Evan, that's too low. This guy's going to he's going to the house every time he catches the ball. 100 yards per. Yeah, that's Big Ben, baby. So, all right, so let's start with Najee Harris. Your average running back his rookie year, and I'm sliding down my chair again. His average is 7.8. I feel comfortable just handing him that 7.8. Your average rookie or your average running back at 7.8 yards per reception. Okay, sound good?
Yup.
All right. Jalen Samuels for his career, or over the last 3 years, which I think is the same thing as saying his career, has a 6.7 yards per reception. He is not good. Benny Snell, take a shot. Do you think Snell is higher or lower or the same than Samuels? You're muted.
Lower.
Ever so slightly. These guys,
Nailed it.
These guys, I'm not particularly. So there are certain players where there's certain aspects of their game where they are what they are. Maybe I'm wrong about this 6.5, but I'm not going to be wrong by that much. Good God. Do you think Kalen Ballage is better or worse than this?
I didn't hear the question, but always worse.
Always worse? Correct. He's a full yard worse per reception than Benny Snell. That is rough. Okay, now this is where it really starts to matter because these are guys who are going to be getting high volume targets and are going to be fantasy relevant. So, Deontay Johnson over the last 2 years, 10.9 yards per reception. And it was 11.5 his rookie year. It was 10.5 last year. You see this a lot, and this is what I was talking about, where as somebody gets more targets, they're usually getting tasked with more difficult throws, a wider variety of targets, so their catch rate goes down and their yards per reception, or actually usually their catch rate, it depends on what their catch rate was, but usually their yards per reception go down the more targets they have because you have more chances to blow it, or to catch more drag routes that don't go anywhere or outs that don't get any yak or stuff like that. So 10.5 last year, went from 11.5 to 10.5. Evan, do you picture Deontay Johnson having pretty much the same role as he did last year?
I mean, like you said, they only added like one guy.
Yeah, they only added Najee.
And they got rid of a guy that had the same position, so it's not like that's going to change.
Plug and play change. So 10.5 is a good starting off point. So he'll have the same role. Do you think he'll be better or worse than the role?
Oh, better.
Better? Okay.
Yeah.
Are we talking...
He's young. He's still improving.
Are we talking an extra yard per reception better or...
like half a yard?
That gives him... Oh, wait, no. That gives him... Jesus Christ, I can't type. 990 receiving yards, which...
That feels right.
He had 923 last year. So if you're predicting him to stay relatively flat, slight uptick, 990 is fine. But I'm going to override you. I'm going to do 990. I'm going to do 11.5 because I think
it should be more because 990 is not really an uptick when you factor in the extra game.
Exactly. Yeah. So 11.5. That's a pretty decent uptick. He's crossing that 1,000-yard threshold. Juju. So Juju was at 11.2 yards per catch before last year, and then yards per reception last year was at 8.6. So, like we talked about, his role has changed in the offense. He's more of a, as Ken Shamrock put it, safety blanket, a binky type. And then Ken Shamrock, we'll get to that question in just one sec. Yards per reception, 8.6. Computer projected him for 8.9. I feel like he's probably going to split the difference between what he's done in his career, what he did last year. I think he'll probably be up over 9, but I don't think 9.5. Do you think like 9.3 yards per reception gives him 791 yards? Sure. That's a drop down from last year, actually, in total yards. We can also do this. Evan, how many yards do you think Juju Smith-Schuster has?
850.
We can do that. That's 10 yards per reception. That's fine. Before you get to Chase Claypool, Ken Shamrock asked, how much will a competent rushing game and good receiving running back help those in the middle of the field like a Juju / Deontay with an ADOT under 8. It depends on this is my thoughts on it. It depends on how they utilize the interplay between the rushing game and the passing game. So if you have a team like the Tennessee Titans, for example, Tennessee Titans love running play action because everybody is this is a family stream, so effing worried about Derrick Henry that everybody has all the linebackers and the safeties, they all have their eyes in the backfield. That's who they're worried about. So that lets A.J. Brown basically work unmolested underneath. And A.J. Brown, before I get too far down this rabbit hole, let me look at his average depth per target. Last year, A.J. Bone. This guy said A.J. Bone. 10.9, so that doesn't really apply. But to me, it really depends on how they utilize it. This year, I don't know. It's hard to say with the Steelers because I think a big factor more so than having a competent running game, what this passing game will look like is what Ben's elbow looks like, personally. Because you saw down the stretch how he kind of faltered a little bit. Not all of his throws were on script. Ultimately, to answer your question, how much will a competent rushing game and a good receiving running back help those in the middle of the field? I think it's ultimately negligible. Because the cornerbacks covering them aren't so worried, and because it's 3 of them, there's not really a lot of safety help that can rotate over. So really you're talking a lot of one-on-ones with the cornerback. So for this particular team, I don't think it particularly matters so much, but that is something interesting to think about. And I do think that kind of varies from team to team and how they want to deploy it. I don't know how much the Steelers ran play action last year. Play action 2020 Steelers. Because if they're like, data shows Steelers both avoid play action passing, but that's before the 2020 season. So if they run more play action, I think it'll be a big boon. If they don't, I don't think it'll matter so much. So Ken Shamrock, it would be interesting to compare to the Lev Bell years, but it would be who's Antonio Brown in the situation? Is it Deontay? Because I think Antonio Brown's gravity. It's an interesting interplay. I think Antonio Brown's gravity helped Lev Bell, and I think Lev Bell's keeping people's eyes in the backfield helped Antonio Brown. But they were both great players in their heyday when they were both playing with Ben. So I think it will be interesting to see, Deontay and Claypool together. That could be an Antonio Brown type. But I need to do more research before I answer this question because I don't know how much they run play action. It looks like they ran play action about 10% of the time last year, which, again, I don't pay for Pro Football Focus. I don't know what rate that is, where that lands in the NFL. But if you're getting the running back, getting people worried about the running back, then yeah, it'll work. But there was also research that showed that as long as you don't have like me back there at running back, play action will always work. Like, it'll always work. It doesn't matter who's in the backfield. I think it was Josh Hermsmeyer did that for 538 like 4 or 5 years ago, did that study. So, all right. Evan, you're still here, right?
Yeah, man.
All right, Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool was at 13.9 yards per reception last year. Don't forget, he was the big play guy. He had lots of big plays last year. So, what do you think? 8.4 feels exceptionally low.
Red.
Yeah.
14.
As Ken Shamrock pointed out, his ADOT was almost 14, so Ben's not even aiming for him there. You know?
That's true.
So let's put that. It should be above Deontay.
His ADOT?
His YPR.
Yeah, so his YPR is 14 and Deontay's is 11.5.
It's Yepper.
His Yepper. So I feel good about that. James Washington, God, who knows what James Washington's up to? When I think of James Washington, my mental image is of a guy going up for a 50-50 ball like 20 yards downfield, but I don't know how real that is.
Like a fire hydrant wearing a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey.
It was so hard to watch him in college because, well, actually, it was so easy because you're like, all right, where's the running back split out wide? That's who I'm looking for. Because, yeah, 5'11", 213, dude's built like a fire hydrant. So his ADOT was actually 12.5 last year, but on his career, you're probably looking closer to 15.5, 16, somewhere in that range. Good God. 51 play action for the Steelers. League average is around 130 last year. Ken Shamrock, you're our Jamie. Like the like on Joe Rogan. He's like, hey, Jamie, pull that up. It's like Ken Shamrock. Look that up. And I'm not endorsing Joe Rogan with this, but this is not a podcast.
Which one of us in this scenario is the crazy conspiracy theorist?
Well, I listened to a podcast about Alex Jones, so I guess it would be me. But it's debunking Alex Jones. I just have to say it's debunking Alex Jones. James Washington, will give him 15 yards per reception. Who cares? Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron, for his career, his last 3 years. Because I mostly care what people have done in the last few years. It's a what have you done for me lately.
Last year was dead on 10.0.
Okay, and then so last year was 10.0. Last 3 years it was 11. So let's call it 10.5. Pat Freiermuth, I'll give him league average tight end production, 11 yards per reception. We got to speed this up. We're an hour and 15 minutes into this. This is the last big screen we have to look at. So let's see what the computer has to say. All right, computer does not like the Steelers for scoring touchdowns. They've got none for Najee Harris receiving. So let's look at, as a surrogate for Najee Harris, let's look at James Conner. His receiving touchdown percent, because I think that this is more a function of usage than a lot of stuff. So 3.23% of his receptions ended in touchdowns. So computer rounded it up to 4.2, 2 receiving touchdowns. They don't really pass to the running back around the goal line. So
I was just gonna spitball 2.
Okay, so 2 works. Jalen Samuels will kick him 1 because if they're gonna pass it for a touchdown, they'll have 1. I don't even know if Kalen Ballage has a receiving touchdown in his career yet. Kalen Ballage does not have a receiving touchdown in his career. My instinct was correct. Does Benny Snell? I think he probably has 1 or 2. Benny Snell has none. Okay, so I don't think either of these guys are getting receiving touchdowns. Sorry, Kalen Ballage. All right, Deontay Johnson, 5.6% touchdown rate. Deontay, 8.1 in his career, 8.2 in his career. So it's actually 8.16. So how do you feel about 7 touchdowns for Deontay Johnson? Does that feel?
What he had last year.
That's what he had last year?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think he gets the extra touchdown this year, or do you think that a degrading Ben Roethlisberger arm will offset the 17th game in terms of touchdown production?
Yeah.
Do you like how I framed that in a way where you just had to say yeah and I got what I wanted?
I do like that.
Okay. So Juju averages I lost Juju. Juju 7.6 on his career, but that doesn't come out with a nice number for receiving touchdowns. So do you think 6 receiving touchdowns works for Juju for this year? And if I can pull it up, I will tell you what he got year over year.
It's 6 sounds a little low.
It's weird because his role changed so much. So 7.739. You want to give him 7?
Yeah.
All right, same as James Conner. Chase Claypool. I think he leads the Steelers running backs in touchdowns.
Wide receivers? He did last year.
Did I say running backs?
Yeah, but that's cool.
That's what I meant, wide receivers. Claypool has 14.5% touchdown rate. So let's just see what that does. Do you think he gets 11 touchdowns?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think he gets 11 touchdowns?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Forgetting everything? Sure.
Woo! Okay. So we'll roll with that. James Washington, 3 touchdowns. I'm fine with that. Eric Ebron. 4 13.7% touchdown rate in his career. And I think a lot of that is skewed by that 1 year in Indy where he had a ton of touchdowns and like no targets. So I probably would feel better with 4 for Eric Ebron. Let's see what he did last year. This is what you got to do with projections. Double check against your gut. So he had 5 last year. So I'm fine leaving him at 5. Sound good? Sure.
Yeah.
Give Pat Freiermuth 2. I'm going to give Pat Freiermuth 2. Just because, he's a quality rookie tight end who won't do a lot, but he will be efficient. So Big Ben's getting all of the passing share. I'm not divvying this up with anybody else. Big Ben, 62.3% completion rate is the projected completion rate, but this doesn't account for the other guys around the edges. So again, I like to look at the last few years. So let's look at what Ben Roethlisberger's completion rate has been over the last few years. He's sitting at... Ooh, I forgot that he really sucked for the couple games before he got hurt in 2019. I remember we were talking about the end of Ben Roethlisberger because it was like he was throwing real stinky ducks out there. 65.9. So let's bump this up to 66%. And the reason we do that is because there's extra players on the team we haven't accounted for. Yards per completion is kind of broken. So I like to just look at what's projected on the team already. 936 plus 374. 4,300 passing yards. 4,317 passing. There's always a remainder. So what do you think about 4,317 passing yards for Big Ben this year, Evan? He's averaged 45 per 16 games over the last couple of years. That seems low, right?
Yeah.
Let's give him 4,650.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. You can ignore this. This won't break anything if you leave this negative 333 remaining. What this is the fact that I always leave 5% of the targets unaccounted for. That's where these extra 333 yards are coming from. So don't worry about that. How do you feel about 38 passing touchdowns, Evan? More than 38?
Sure. 38's a lot, actually. No, I take it back.
Yeah, I was going to say that's his career high.
Okay.
He had 34. So his last 2 healthy seasons, he had 34 and 33. So 38, we can leave it at 38. Good God. Big Ben is crushing the league. And then his pick rate. So interception rate you can find on Pro Football Reference. 1.6 each of the last 2 years, 2.4 before that, 2.5. I'm going to take this grouping to kind of offset it. 2.2. If we take this grouping, it's 2 flat. Let's call it 2 flat. 13 interceptions. Does that sound right for Big Ben? That's a lot of picks. But he throws a lot of picks. 10, 16, 14, 13, 16. Yeah, he YOLOs it. So 13% or 13 interceptions. I don't project fumbles. I just don't. I think they're too, there are players who get more fumbles than other players, but fumbles are a problem until they're not. So we got Big Ben here.
What stat would a fumble even affect?
I would just be negative fantasy points depending on your projection.
Oh, fantasy points. Gotcha.
Yeah. So this is what we got. Evan, we have a complete set of projections. We have Big Ben Roethlisberger having a career year, except for rushing. Najee Harris with 13 touchdowns and what's this about 1,500 total yards, just a little over. Claypool leading the way because of all of his big touchdowns. And let's see what this does to the rankings. So, rankings. Roethlisberger. Oh, I'm feeling good about this. 15. It's pretty good that sounds about right for Roethlisberger. Matt Ryan is too low. So when you finish your projections, what I always do is I always look and I gut check it. So I have not gut checked my projections yet, but Matt Ryan below Daniel Jones, that's too low. So that tells me I got to go back and relook at Atlanta.
Kim Shamrock and I are both waiting to see where Najee comes in.
Are you guys, that's what I was going to say. Are you guys ready for that?
Yeah.
Najee is 10.
That's high.
That doesn't feel too high to me.
Okay, how come?
Well, I mean, James Conner was in that range when he got a full year of worth of touches, and Najee Harris is better than James Conner.
Okay. What does Ken think about all this? Chime in, Ken, when you get a chance. I mean, Chris Carson. Wow, these names are interesting. Chris Carson, 11. Where do you have Cam Akers?
You don't want to know.
Oh my God.
Oh, Antonio Gibson's too low. Before anybody says anything, there's Cam Akers. I don't like.
We need to have a stream where we talk about this.
Yeah, I don't like Cam Akers this year.
Why? I love him.
So what do people not like about J.K. Dobbins?
He's in a split backfield. The quarterback runs the ball.
He doesn't get passes.
He doesn't get passes.
Okay, so he doesn't get passes. That's one. What do people not like about DeAndre Swift? Split backfield.
He doesn't get touched. He doesn't get carries.
Split backfield.
Yeah.
What do people not like about CEH? He was bad on the goal line last year. Okay.
Yeah.
Cam Akers was as bad as CEH on an efficiency basis on the goal line last year. The Rams ranked 30th and 32nd in pass attempts to the running backs the last 2 years. And I believe Darrell Henderson will get more touches. But, again, this is my first run-through. Do I think Cam Akers should be 24? No. But this is where my first run-through led me
But he was so good the last time I saw him.
Oh, that's the problem, is he was so good the last time we saw him. So this is my first run through. This is just my gut reaction. And then my second run through, I go through and I'm like, okay, like I pick out problem spots. Like I don't like Cam Akers, but Cam Akers at 24 is insane. Like that's preposterous. What else? There was a guy that was way too high. Mike Davis 16, not so bad. Joe Mixon 18. I will stand by that till the end of time. This is too low. Antonio Gibson 19. That's way too low.
Ezekiel Elliott, you should have his stats when he gets injured week 8 out for season.
I know that's the thing is I do project full health. So, but this is my money zone right here. These two running backs right here, you can get these guys at the turn. If you're going running back, Eckler and Aaron Jones. This is my money. These are my money picks right here. Wide receivers. Let's see what this did to the wide receivers. Again, these are preliminary. Please do not roast. We got Chase Claypool at 16. We got Deontay at 26. And we got Juju at 31. So all three are usable. We got a wide receiver 1 and, where was he? 26 and 2 wide receiver 3s. So those are probably a little low. CeeDee Lamb is wildly low on here. Oh my God. CeeDee Lamb should not be 25. Interesting. So this is the fun of doing projections is you build it from the top down. And then you can say, okay, where did I end up? And then you can find some truths about yourself, but then you can really learn some things about how you actually feel about players. Like, Evan, do you know the trick where it's like, it's like, oh my God, you're pregnant. And it's like, where the person didn't know if they wanted to be pregnant or not. And then they start to cry and they're like, I don't want the baby, like, this is going to ruin my life. You're like, well, good news. You're not pregnant. I was just testing to see how you reacted. To see how
that was the worst episode of Maury.
Going to Maury for a pregnancy test. We flew out here. You are pregnant. Tight end, who cares? I have not done the 49ers yet. They're last. So if there's no George Kittle up there. But Evan, look at this. How you feeling about that?
Yeah, that looks about right.
Goddard 6.
We need to have a full stream where we need to have a full stream where we talk about this and get your gut checks because the chat will be popping.
Yeah, we can do that for the 1 o'clock Wednesday next week.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, and I will stick by this forever, just so everybody knows. This right here. Da 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 da. Walker is leading the way, but I'm right behind him. I'm riding his coattails. So, yeah, lots of targets this year because of the extra game, but we'll see. So, all right. Yeah, thanks for watching to everybody in the chat. Thanks for everybody who watches this after it goes up on the website. Evan, you'll be back tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow, and we usually broadcast at 1, but while I was doing this, I got a surprise medical appointment booked that I got to take, so I'll be doing it at 10 a.m.
Okay.
Pacific Standard Time.
10 a.m.
Just
tomorrow
only. I'll be doing a mock draft, and then Friday I'm going to do a mock auction, as always. Friday I'm going to do one. Friday I'm thinking of doing one where I face all robots. I bid $186 on Christian McCaffrey to start, and then I'm taking a page from Jeff's book. I have to fill it out with $1 players and try to get a B- grade or better.
See what happens. See if you can do it. So
yeah.
All right. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. And oh man, Ken Shamrock's gonna roast the rankings. No, I know.
That's gonna be a rough one for you, buddy.
No, I'm gonna boot Ken Shamrock from the chat when we do it. How's that sound? All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Evan will be back tomorrow. I'll be back next week. But for now, don't forget about the move.